Lesson 10.7, Video 5. Now here's where the fun begins. If we look at this example, now we have a lot of information up here, but we'll come back to that at the end here because there's really only one part that we're really going to emphasize on. Now if you notice, we have a triangle with an angle given, which means we could find the third angle if we wanted to. We have one side known and we're looking for another side. Now the interesting thing here is that we have one side known, so a Pythagorean theorem does us no good. We need at least two sides to do Pythagorean theorem. So this is where Trig can step in and allow us to go further than Pythagorean could. Now remember, we have three phrases. One for sine, one for cosine, and one for tangent, SOHCAHTOA. Now it's important right away to say, well, if they give us 35, let's look at that one and use that one. And I describe my sides, which means this one would be considered opposite, and this one is adjacent, and this one is hypotenuse, because it's the side opposite the right angle. What side has no information at all? Well, there's an 8 for opposite, there's an x for hypotenuse, and the x is what we're looking for. The adjacent has nothing of use, so we're going to take that one out. Now if that's taken out, then any trig function that used adjacent does us no good. So cosine uses adjacent, that does us no good, and tangent uses adjacent, and that does us no good. So in this case, the sine trig function is the one we will use because it will give us a ratio using the side we know, so opposite is 8, and the side we want to know, which is hypotenuse. And the way we solve that is we just take the trig function, put it over 1, and we've created a proportion that we can cross multiply. And if we do that, we get x times sine of 35, and that's one thing, it's locked together. So remember, sine of 35 is one thing, equals 8. So if I divide by sine of 35, the way you get your answer is taking 8 and dividing by sine of 35. Now play around with your calculator and make sure you enter it properly. It'll take a little practice to get to know your calculator. But if you do it right, then x, because these cancel, x should equal approximately 13.9. Work with your calculator and make sure you get that. And again, make sure you're in degrees. The next one, alright, so again we have three sayings. We look at our triangle they gave us. We're going to look from 49, which makes this one the opposite. I'm going to put O there. This is the hypotenuse, and this is the adjacent. Now again, the adjacent is the unknown, the one we're looking for. The hypotenuse is 7, so we can use that. The opposite has no information. So any trig function that uses opposite, so sine is opposite over hypotenuse, tangent is opposite over adjacent, will do us no good. That gives us the ability to focus on cosine. So we will say cosine of 49 is equal to adjacent, which is x, over hypotenuse, which is 7. We put the trig function over 1 and we cross multiply. And we get x equals, now this is not 7 times 49. Remember, cosine of 49 is one thing. So to keep that in mind, I recommend writing the number first and then do the cosine part. Okay, so if you calculate that out properly, you should get approximately 4.6. Again, a little mistake is for someone to write cosine of 49, and on your calculator you usually get a parenthesis and they go times 7, and they forget that this parenthesis should be there, and then it messes up your equation. So remember to double check your calculations so that you're doing it properly. Our last one here, again we have three sayings to help us remember our ratios. If we're going to look from here, this is opposite, this is hypotenuse, and this is adjacent. So of these sides, the hypotenuse is the one that gives us nothing, no variables or numbers. So anything that uses hypotenuse we will throw out, which tells us that tangent is our best choice. So tangent of 41 is equal to opposite over adjacent, Put that over 1, cross multiply, and we get x times tangent of 41 equals 10. Divide by tan 41. And again, check your calculation, but you should get 11.5. So of all those instructions up here, the one part that I've emphasized over and over again is know the side you know and the one you're trying to find. Those two sides being given to you will help you decide what trig function to use. And this ends lesson 10.7, video 5.